Hello everyone, it's Jay here from the Training Court Podcast, a Pokemon TCG podcast bringing you anything and everything Pokemon TCG related. If you are looking for Pokemon TCG competitive decks ready to go, including GLC decks, please head over to PokéDex4U.com. Pokédex4U has a variety of decks ready for sale, with each deck being fully customizable and bespoke to your needs. Use the code TrainingCourtTCG for 5% off your first order. Now let's get on to the episode. Hello everyone and welcome to the Training Court, a Pokemon TCG podcast about anything and everything Pokemon TCG related. Jay here, and I'm joined by my fellow co-hosts Alex and Niigata, and this week a very special guest. This week we have our esteemed guest of Sean, or as you might know him, ForTheWinTCG on Twitter and Twitch and YouTube. Hi Sean.
Wow.
Hello.
Love that. How
Hello
you doing, man?
everyone. Yeah, how is everyone doing?
Good, Tom. Good, yeah, really good.
Good.
Very poorly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get over it now. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I mentioned to Sean before and the guys before, but we went to a League Cup and we came back with illnesses. So no wins, but plenty of illnesses. So yeah. Well, again, thanks Sean for joining us. You are our second official guest on the podcast. So what we do with our previous guest is we have a bit of Q&A, get to know you. Obviously, you're a fellow co-host for this week's episode, so we thought it'd be best for us to get to know you and our listeners and watchers to get to know you. So from my side, I'm going to kick off really and say, how did you get into Pokemon and specifically Pokemon TCG?
Thanks for having me on, by the way. I just want to say that. Yeah, so got into it by just, weirdly enough, right? So we all know Primark, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Having a little shop in Primark. This is like 2017 maybe-ish. And I remember just seeing, was it Guardians Rising? Just a pack on there on the shelf. And they never have the packs there, but for some reason they had it there, right? For those who don't know, Primark's like a clothes shop, massive clothes shop in the UK. And I was like, oh, I remember those bad boys. Let me just grab a couple. Then it turned into a couple more, then a couple more, then a couple more. And then I started reading the cards and I was like, oh, how's this all work? And then it kind of just all kicked off from there. Started watching people like Tricky Jim and Omnipoke and who's a fellow British creator as well. And who else was there as well? PTCG Radio. And then from there, that's where it all kicked off.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, they're kind of similar to mine. Obviously, I played with Al back in the day, this is going to show our age, 99, 2000. So we played when we used to go to our pocket money, that'll also show our age. Pocket money going back to the newsagents and getting packs of Fossil and Jungle for $1.99. God, what you do.
It was
early. $199.
They were cheap, man. They were cheap.
Yeah. And then, I think it was just during COVID in Tesco, I saw a pack and I was like, oh, I mean, I've always carried on playing the games. I'm a video game player, played the games, but yeah, I've not had the shiny cardboard in a while. And unfortunately, my first pack was I got a full art trainer. I got a Karina's Focus full art from probably Chilling Reign or Battle Styles.
I think it's Battle Styles. I think
it is Battle Styles. Yeah. So that then I was like, oh no, this is a must-see.
They've awoken something in you.
Yeah.
So obviously you mentioned that you started collecting, and then you obviously started reading. What kind of pushed you to go from collecting to actual competing?
Boredom, if I'm honest. I was just one point, I was just sitting there looking at them and like, they do things. It was just pure curiosity at that point that pushed me onto it. And also a big part of it on top of that was also, again, throwing back to Tricky Jim. I watched a channel called Darium's Pokemon, which he was originally a part of, and they were doing massive collector videos, like opening, 1,000 packs, right? And they were getting a lot of attention at that point. Yeah. And Andrew Mahone was a part of that, and then he would go off and do make videos on the channel Darium's Competitive Pokemon, which is now known as Tricky Jim. And just make competitive videos there. And I quite liked him and Darium's Pokemon. So I started watching him on top of that. So that helped me kind of push towards it as well. So that was kind of how I transitioned from kind of collecting to playing.
Brilliant. No, brilliant. Anyone else got any other questions?
Yeah,
Go on.
Go on, Andy. Mine is such a trivial question that it's not even worth asking. But I just really want to know. I just really want to know what your favorite Pokemon card is.
Pokemon card?
Yeah.
Yo, okay. Let me have a think. Okay, so not for its playability, but just because I like the card, It's the Unseen Forces Lugia EX, I believe it is. Quite a rare one. I had it and I lost it, and I'm so annoyed. It's quite expensive now, but it's quite an old one, and it just brings me back to my childhood of when we had the card, and it was like 200 HP. Wasn't it? It was 200 damage. I was like, what is that? So that's definitely it. So that's my favorite card.
I'm a fellow Lugia stan as well.
Oh yeah.
Have you gone? So I think he's up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Behind me. Yeah. You do. You think back now, and you look back, and you look at base set Charizard, and you think, wow, it can hit for 150. That's nothing now. You got Cramorant that can hit for 110 for just 4 cards and Lost Zone and no energy. It's bizarre. The power creep is real.
Yeah.
Anyway, Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask obviously to me, you are like the rogue deck master.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask how do you figure out your decks when you're building them? So when sets are released and you see a card, how do you kind of work that into a deck?
I immediately think of what it can work with. So I look at let's say, what would be an interesting one for an example? What have I recently made a video on? I'll look it up quickly, but basically that's what I would do. I would sit there and just be like, okay, what can this work with? And do I like something about that card when I see it? So let's say, for example, here I will use, I believe I made a video on like Dondozo, right? Dondozo. I made a video on that. I look at that and I go, okay, it's a simple attack, but it can be effective, right? You got to get Tatsugiri in a discard pile. And then from there, I sit there and go, okay, how exactly can I make it do what it does good as quickly as possible? And then in my head, I'll just run a bunch of ideas. So I'm like, okay, what can I use to discard Tatsugiri? It's like, okay, now I need a discard engine. So then I think, okay, you've got Curlier and stuff like that to be able to refinement and discard them. So then in my head, I'm kind of just making these connections. And usually I make my decks on release day. I don't make them before. I like to look in PTCGO or PTCG Live and just go ahead and then sit there and go, right, okay, this works, and then kind of just, refine it over time very quickly. So it just all comes into the head, kind of just clicks what's good right now and what can work with it. So that's kind of how it works.
So consistency first and then build around it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. First off, it's what combos with it.
Yeah.
How can I make that consistent? Yeah. That's the kind of process.
Cool. I think I played against a deck that was one of your videos. On live, and I hated it. So it was the Kyurem, like a ton of energy, and
Kyogre. It was like 30 energy.
And he had Adventurer's Discovery on turn 1, got all his Kyurem, and then on turn 2 he used Adventurer's Discovery again, got his Remaxes, and I was like, I just couldn't. I had one route and like a Mew, and it was pretty grim. But yeah, it's a fun deck anyway.
Oh, chaos. Absolute chaos.
Absolute chaos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gaff, have you got a question? Sorry for putting you on the spot.
Now.
I quite like a rogue deck. So I used to play pre-rotation. I played Clefairy. Oh yeah. And everyone would be like, "Oh, Clefairy," and then I'd just bop them. And it really was a lot of fun. So what is your like favorite rogue deck if you just want a quick game just to blast away the cobwebs? What's your go-to?
Do you know what? I've been trying to find it. That's the problem I've been having recently, is I would always have one like that I kind of just jump on the ladder, start going. But right now it's quite difficult, and I think we might, this goes into kind of the PTCG Live thing. To just briefly bring up is it's so sweaty. Everyone's out here trying to get the rank, and it makes sense as a rank ladder. So it's very hard to find a deck that's typically rogue that I'll kind of just play, because usually I naturally have to go to something meta, unfortunately, to really play. So I've been trying to take the time recently to find out what rogue deck I really like. For now, I would say that I've been playing recently that I'm enjoyed, and I just played it on stream, was Spidops. I've been really enjoying that one recently. So I think that's the closest to it for now.
I'm kind of in the same boat at the minute. My go-to was Reggie's.
And now you play Reggie's now?
What? No, it was.
Oh, I see. I was like, how are you doing that? Send me a bit of a list. Give me what you get.
Do you know, I've seen lists and I've tried to make it work on PTCGL. It's so much harder.
Yeah.
It is what, like you said, though. It's
I went
so
to
sweaty out there, isn't it?
And now I'm waiting for Paldea Evolved to see what else.
That's when it gets juicy.
Yeah.
With Chen Pao.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's what I'll be playing, I think.
Yeah. 100%. That's the problem is, again, I think like yourself, Sean, and Andy are alluding to, whilst obviously, I think we play a bit more in real life. I think Alex plays a lot of live. I struggle with which we'll obviously discuss later on. I struggle with the actual client, but so I prefer in real life. But it's just so sweaty in real life. It's very rare that you actually come across a rogue deck in real life. Like I said, when I used to play Cath, I was like, oh, at least it's a change. It's something different.
Yeah.
I played Miss Maggie's deck once, and it's refreshing because you learn it. I think I played the was it the Trubbish and the Shed Ninja mill deck.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
That was I played that in real life and I was like, what's going on? But it was good but then now, like I said, I'm myself and Andy, we're in a really rubbish situation because I don't enjoy playing the meta stuff at the moment. I've never liked Lost Box. Lugi has let me down constantly. Unfortunately.
Yes, now it has, yeah. Or even before.
Even at Liverpool regionals, it bricked for me in real life. Ooh. So and then I've enjoyed Guardies for the draw power, but it's just so sweaty. It's Lost Box, it's Guardian Mirror, or it's just basically more and more Lost Box. So it's kind of the same really. So
Guardian's
looking forward to Paldea.
And it's I'm pretty bored of it already. And I don't play that much.
I'm ready for Lost Box to be irritated. That's all I'm saying.
It's going to be so long before F, isn't it?
I know. I can't wait for that either. It's for me, the reason I wanted to rotate because it gatekeeps so many rogue decks I build. It's like I build a rogue deck and it's like, oh, Lost Box. Right.
Well, that's it. You've got to think about it.
Auto loses.
You've got to think.
But what does Lost, like, apart from obviously like comfy, like what does Lost Box actually have to lose for it to not be viable? Because it needs comfy, it needs chorus, it needs Saberline, but they're all four F. Sorry. Like, so they'll all go at the same time, but there's got to be like an integral card in it that, I don't know. Like,
as long as it can switch.
That's the good thing about that's the thing about Lost Box. You can put
whatever,
anything you want with it.
So annoying. Yeah. I mean, I played Lost Box like since Lost Origin came out up until the Scarlet and Violet, and it's when
my brain can't keep up.
Yeah, I know. Like playing it in real life is like playing it online is really hard, but playing it in real life, I was like, I think at one point, I think I played against you, Andy, at the regionals. We matched it together at the regionals, and I accidentally picked up my deck thinking it was I picked up my deck thinking it was my hand, because my hand was like 50 cards. Like,
he was looking at some cards on the table and he just went, "What's that?" I said, "That's your deck." And he picked it up. I was like, "What are you doing?"
I was like, "What am I doing?" Yeah.
Judge. yeah, that's mental.
That is, because I suppose it must be difficult again, like you said, for every rogue deck, because and it's the same when you want to put like a tech card in. You want to say, oh, how do I, I'm going to put this in. Like for me, Miraidon, when Miraidon came out, I was like, I really like the idea of this deck. And I went and built it, and I was like, it's just, I want the Fluffy Dynamotor in there because it helps with the discard and the synergy. Straight away, you're like, well, 90 HP, Radiant Greninja. Nope, it's not viable. Everything you've got to think, is it Sableye or Greninja? Proof. So it's really, really frustrating. But one of my questions, sorry, Sean, is you mentioned one of your videos, specifically post EUIC, that you and your brother are looking to get into actual in real life playing. How's that going?
Not there yet. Still need to get like decks and stuff like that for the time being. I think my focus right now has been just content. That's the main priority. But as soon as I can get myself, I first have to decide the deck. I'm still kind of torn. Originally was liking Arceus with something, was waiting for a good Arceus deck to pop up. Thankfully, Portland has shown a few. Yes. But I still don't know yet. I'm enjoying Lugia quite a bit now. So it's first of it's deciding what deck to go for first, which I'm assuming everyone kind of has that trouble before any sort of competitive play. And then going from there. So I'm still in that stage of kind of deciding. We're looking to kind of get into competing next year. So we're just taking it slow, making sure we do it, properly, get the things we need, and just start enjoying it. For me, the first step would be to just go to like some league challenges and stuff. So I want to just kind of pick a deck, go, okay, I'm going to get the things I need, like, dice and play mats and stuff like that, and then get going. So it's been on the list, but I haven't been able to get to it just yet, unfortunately. But it's still on the top of the priority list. Well, obviously below content, but it's there.
It's definitely up there. I mean, I am, like I said, all of us here, we're all relatively new into the actual community. I think we've been playing, just short of 18 months now, realistically. Some of us even less. So
I started in August, actually, last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like during like the tail end of Astral Radiance, when there was a ridiculously defined meta in just Palkia, I think it was at the time. Yeah. And Andy actually bought for my birthday was in August. So I was like, I want to get into TCG, and Andy bought me the Ice Rider Calyrex League Battle deck, and that was my first deck that I played on live.
It's a good start.
It was a really good deck. And yeah, I see some murmurs of Ice Rider Calyrex. I don't know, being good, but yeah, I think I'm in a similar boat because like I only really get a chance to play TCG online. Like I try and come back whenever I can to play in real life because I do enjoy it. But yeah, like probably 90% of my games are online, so it is kind of tough. Like going from online, it's so different. Like you just like you think, oh, it is the same game, but you get there and I'm like, oh my, like I forgot sometimes to put my prizes out, and like it doesn't tell you.
It's also automated, isn't it?
Yeah. So
that's what I think I might struggle. I'll sit there and be like, where's my prize cards? Let's get. That's Lost Zone. Is that stayed? Let's get. Oh, it's gonna be mad.
And keeping track of what your ability of use, that was really hard with Lost Box. And who's evolved?
Supporter.
Yeah.
But the thing for us, obviously, like I said, we're coming in new, is the community's been really, really good. We found we're based in the northwest, apart from Alex is in Italy. We're based in the northwest of England, and there's a real strong contingency in the northwest, specifically Manchester Central. Where we started at a Geek Retreat, and we've moved over to another shop called Fanboy 3, and we've got such support from established players who get their Worlds invites. We were in the leagues with them the other day. One of the players that I played, he got top 17 in the UIC. That's the kind of level of people that we're playing against, and the community has been phenomenal. So that kind of leads me to my next question for yourself. Obviously, you've gone to a purely online community, which I can imagine is notoriously not as friendly as an in real life one, given the fact that there's keyboards between you. But how have you found it going into that kind of that environment? Obviously, making a lot of content, and has there been any kind of like really good supporters, and good people who you looked up to, and then all of a sudden they become peers, and you work with them, etc.
Yeah. Primarily, I think a lot of it was to do with a lot of that I experienced with joining the Shuffle Squad when I was with the Shuffle Squad. Not with them anymore, but when I was with them, it was great. I mean, it was great to be, working with like the likes of like LDF and stuff like that. Even to this day, their arms are still open. I remember even him telling me in the DMs, he was like, "Yeah, look, love to have you back. Be great to have two rogue deck creators in here." But all I've had online primarily is a lot of love, which is so good. You get the odd hater here and there, and you get that, you get the keyboard warriors here and there, but I've seen primarily an incredible level of positivity online from my perspective, at least in regards to how people have treated me, which is incredible, absolutely incredible. And to kind of see the respect of peers, LDF Saberlize is quite he's shown some respect to me before as well. It's really nice actually to kind of experience that. So from what I've seen online, apart from the odd debate here and there about how you should do this and how you should do that and how things should go, which can get heated. It's a debate, but it's been primarily just so much love. So haven't seen much of the toxicity. Apart from, was it the other day I played on PTCGL and some Donny's out here slow playing to the max. He is taking every second. Oh, he's embracing it. But you get that. That is so rare. That's the first time since playing PTCG Live I've had that. So for me, although the online is the loud minority are the ones who are usually quite toxic, but the majority are just respectable people, knowing that you're both here for for a good time. You want to play the game, have fun. Like if you're playing online tournaments, it's very rare you get problems. Usually it's just like, good luck, have fun, yada yada. Whoever wins wins, whoever loses is what it is. But yeah, ultimately online it's been pretty good for me in my opinion. So it's been a good experience.
I think it's amazing actually how I think that's what I found as well, and I guess what you guys have found as well, is that it's actually pretty amazing how the majority I find of the community is so positive and is behind pioneer, like especially as a new player. And like when we went to Fanboy the other week, there was a guy that came in. He would literally, it was his first time he'd ever played in real life. And I think people are always so happy to help. And I think it's quite amazing for a community, like a video game community, which is notoriously can be a bit half toxic, half great. But this one, the TCG community at the very least is majority very positive. I think it's quite special. Yeah.
Oh yeah, very very. I've noticed a very very loyal. And what I mean by that is like for my channel, the views and stuff I get and the retention I stuff is far beyond what I should be getting at my level, right? And that's just because people are loyal, like they want to watch and they enjoy it. I think the fact that it's such a small niche means that we all kind of are. We know we're in this very small boat together, right? But we're all having a good time. We're all here for a good time. I think as if it was to get massive, then you'd see a lot more toxicity. Like you see a lot more toxicity, I think, in like the VGC. I think there's a lot more issues there. So I think because we are such a smaller community, that actually bodes well. It means that people kind of, for me, like content creators, people stick by them. They want to see them develop and see them grow, and and just for peers, that it's not every day you're going to go out and see someone who likes the same thing as you do, Pokemon TCG. So you make sure everyone's having a good time. So I think that definitely helps it too.
Yeah.
No, definitely. That's really something really to kind of push and and show off. The fact is there's just such that positive community. It's I think we've been around the block. We've been in many different communities. We've been in video game communities. We've been this isn't our first. Well, I've been in a few podcasts before, and there's a lot of negativity, and like you said, usually they're the ones that shout the loudest. But actually, one thing that I definitely have seen, and it even comes back to us, we're a relatively fresh new podcast. We're just 4 people who chat Pokemon every week. We get together for an hour a week and just chat Pokemon, and we put it up on YouTube, put it up on Spotify and podcasts, and people listen to us. But it's people like yourself, Sean, and we've had Shy Burton on as well.
What a good
just
fella.
Exactly, just taking the time out of your time to come speak to us is just, it just goes to show, how good this community is.
I didn't think we'd get anyone like this tiny little podcast.
Exactly.
VA.
But yeah, no, it is, and it is, and it's really exciting, and it's really good to be a part of. And like I said, even from our side, going to tournaments in real life as well. We competed in the UIC, we competed in Liverpool regionals. The people you bump into and you meet, and they're just really nice. Like I shared a picture on Twitter. I was in the queue after getting a bottle of water in the queue, and Tord was behind me. Tord Reklev. And he was just chatting to me about his deck. And that's what I was like. I should.
You were like, okay, Tord is leaking his deck to me.
He's leaking the sauce.
He's like the best in Europe. You know what I mean? And he's just
goat.
So easygoing, so chilled, so relaxed. And the people we've spoke to specifically about, on the podcast, etc. You mentioned obviously Joe Omnipoke. He's coming on in a couple of weeks as well.
Oh, swear, that's good, man. That's sick.
And exactly, but it's just the fact that everyone is so positive, so helpful, and they want to see each other prosper, and that's what it's really nice to see in a community, especially online. Like you said, it's usually got that negative connotation, to be honest. So yeah, really positive. So anyway, let's move on from the loving to some news.
Who do they hate it?
Obviously,
Who do we hate?
obviously, Sean, you mentioned the Portland regionals. There was some interesting results. So I thought, given that we missed last week's episode because of illness, I thought best we'll just kind of touch over, because there's been a couple of results over the past week or so, with another, I think, is it next week, isn't it? Is it well, by the time this releases, it will be tomorrow. Is it Hartford regional? So there's another regional coming out, and then there's Malmo.
Gosh.
And then there's so much coming out, and then there's NAIC. So there's some really good, interesting.
A special event as well soon.
I think there's a special event as well. Is that this?
Torino.
Yeah. There's so much going off at the moment, and you're seeing as well. The thing I'm seeing on Twitter is so many people now going to these league challenges, league cups. They're getting their invites as well, and I just think it's awesome. It's just so awesome to see. But back to the regional in Portland, obviously, it was won by an Arceus deck, an Arc Giratina deck by Landon Caitler. Did any of you watch this? Watch much of Portland? Specifically the game against, I want to say it was Landon and Landon versus Grant Manley in the top 4. Did any of you see that?
Was that the one where with the Squovit?
That was the infamous. That was phenomenal. So
I heard people posting about what happened there.
So basically, Landon was just milling through his deck, and he set up, and I'm pretty sure Grant put out it must have been a Dragonite. I think it was from his Lost Box. Yeah. And Landon was basically drawing blank, and he had the barrel out. No, he didn't have the barrel out. I think he got taken out. He was struggling, basically, and he had just a Giratina V loaded up on the bench in the active, and he had one Arceus V-Star on the bench. And he did the Squavets, is it Nest Stash ability?
Yeah.
And he needed the
Giratina V-Star.
A Giratina V-Star or a Professor's Research, and he top decked the one card. He got the Giratina V-Star. It was phenomenal. It was like purely for the replay moment. Purely for the replay moment.
Wow.
But yeah, no, it was
It
phenomenal.
wasn't the first time he'd done that though. He'd done it with an Arceus V-Star as well.
Did
he needed a V-Star, yeah.
And
he did it again. And then top bet the
Squavet's definitely going to be a.
I think the general consensus is Squavet is like VIP in a lot of decks, especially with the Bidoof and the Bibarel.
Yeah, definitely. So looking at Landon's deck, I mean, everyone kind of thought, because I think, did you see the stats? I think in Portland there was about 220 decks were Gardevoir.
Massive.
About 214 were Lost Box. Then you had a couple of others, but I think you had a couple of Miraidons as well, actually, which I like to see Miraidon do well. Yeah. But yeah, I always felt that if someone was going to win it, it was going to be an Arceus deck. I didn't know which Arceus deck was going to be an Arc Box or was it going to be Arc Giratina. And it was Arc Giratina. And well done to Landon. Looking at his list, it's just standard, really standard Arc Gira. There's a couple of bits there that obviously the amount of Judge Path to the peak, Judge and Path to the Peaks. Judge Path is it throws off so many decks.
It's so annoying to see that.
Yeah, it's so consistent as well. But the one is obviously Cleansing Gloves, which I thought was pretty cool. So if you look, he's got a copy of Choice Belt and a copy of Cleansing Gloves. So Cleansing Gloves, basically, it's which Pokemon this is attached to, it does 30 extra damage to your opponent's active psychic Pokemon. So basically, it's Choice Belt just for Gardevoir. and Mew technically, but it allows Giratina V-Star to Star Impact with the Cleansing Gloves for the knockout on the Mew V Max or the Gardevoir EX, which you'll see a lot more as well, I think. And then obviously you got Choice Belt for the rest of them. But overall, really, really good list. I actually built this deck, and I was going to go to a League Cup last week, but unfortunately, I was ill. So
I was going to take it to EUIC, wasn't I?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Really?
a shame you didn't. It's a shame you didn't.
To be fair, a lot of people
got dissuaded by it.
A lot of people did. I remember hearing a lot of people kind of talking about Tina, going like Tina's like uncounterable, effectively post rotation, because there's no way to kind of deal with it.
Yeah.
I thought Lost Box Giratina would really, because it saw so much. It saw so much play, and really good results over in Japan post rotation before Scarlet and Violet dropped over here. I thought we were going to see lots of that, but it kind of I played one in the UIC, and that was the game I dropped actually. So technically I didn't play it, but
if you look at Miraidon as well, that was doing amazingly in Japan, but it's not really.
Yeah, it goes to show it doesn't fully translate. I think people here prefer the Gudra over the Tina in a Lost Box. That's what I've noticed.
Definitely.
They're like, oh, I'd rather just sit here, hit 200 and say you're not going to hit me with anything. I'd rather go for the long run.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen people prefer.
No, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. I played with Goo. I played Goo at UIC.
Yeah, you are.
And I just
do
think
very well though.
straight Lost Box or whatever Lost Box variant they're playing, as long as you're playing Sableye, it's just such a nuisance. It's just such a nuisance. And I think the Giratina is a bit of a liability in Lost Box, like more so than say other Vs are in Lost Box, like Dragonite and Raikou. I just think that Giratina is maybe a bit of a liability, which is why it doesn't do as well.
I get it. Because you can't Sky Seal Stone with Tina compared to the Vs. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And and also the price trade. It throws off the price trade, whereas Gudra is a lot harder to KO, and you have to go through 3 of them.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah. The Goo, I think, was it game 1 of the UIC, I added a V-Guard energy to my deck. So my Goo was tanking quite a bit of damage after doing Rolling Iron.
110, right?
It was so it was 110, basically.
Jesus.
And I think the first guy I played, he loaded up as much energy and he basically hit and he was 10 short. He loaded up and everything, and I was like, and then you literally just moisture star it all away.
Oh yeah.
I played a lot of Guardies at UIC and I could only get the draw, unfortunately. But so moving on then for the next deck, obviously the person who came second was Reagan. Doing absolutely incredible. Watching Reagan's matches made me want to play Lugia again.
But it's going to break for you.
It breaks. It's a nightmare. But obviously looking at his list again, it's a really it's an interesting list because it's very specific to Reagan's playstyle, but it works. For me, I think there's he's not running enough energy. That was 13 energy.
13.
That's all he was running.
And he came second.
Yep.
Yo.
So, but it seems because he was running so he ran 2 Tyranitar Vs instead of 1, which I think, to be fair, I only ever usually play 1.
Yep.
He was running no Stonejourner, and then he was not using the Duraludon V and VMAX. He was using Single Strike Urshifu V and VMAX instead. So I assume the tactic was to basically load up all the Single Strike energy onto the Urshifu VMAX, does Gmax 1 blow, which shreds through anything, and then also the Single Strike energy stacks up damage, hits, takes the knockout, and then he ran 3 urns, so he was able just to get the energy back again. But watching him, he was in some really bad situations, and he just came through and absolutely smashed it. So that's Lugia. So really again made me want to really want to play Lugia again. The interesting addition to this was he also used Penny, which I've not seen in Lugia decks before, really. But it's quite good. It's obviously good if you're able to get one. If you can get one of your basic.
I like Thornton better in my personal opinion. Because I like that you can turn Luminion into something like an Urshifu V or whatever's in the discard pile. There's times where
and then evolve it.
There's times where I play Lugia and it's like, I've only just started one Lugia and I've got a Luminion down, but I couldn't get that second Lugia out. And if they KO it, I can Thornton into it and then evolve, get my Archeops out instead of just sitting there going, I can't do anything. Penny, you pick it up.
It does help if you've got like a damaged Lugia V-Star on the bench. You
can't pick it up.
You can't pick it up.
Oh, it's basic. Sorry,
Basic.
RTFC. Okay,
that's good.
A Lugia V.
So we're doing Penny then, are we?
We've got one. The thing for me is that you could essentially double Radiant Serena. You could use Serena's ability Elegant Heal off some damage that's been done to your bench. So, for example, your Archeops or something else. Penny it up, drop it down again, heal again. You can heal 60 per turn.
That's
then if
true.
and if you pal pad potentially as well, if you run it again, options are endless. So it's It's Lugia. It's not going away. We thought after rotation it'd absolutely die death and all the amazing rares, but it's it's all of a sudden it's making good of these cards that you've not used. Like I've never used single strike Yveltal.
When Lugia pops, it could just be unplayable. So, like it's still a great, and obviously it's a shell of its former self. But when it pops off, if everything falls into place, it's just ridiculous.
That's kind of what Tord said, because I watched Tord talk about this in an interview, and he said he thinks the best deck in format is Lugia or Giratina. I think he said Lost Box Giratina, and he said exactly that. He was like, Lugia, it feels bad to play. He said it feels bad to play because there's a coin flips, loads of random chances, but it sets up better than you think, and when it does, it beats everything. He's like, he said it's like the best deck in the format. People just don't know. Which is very interesting. When I watched that, I was like, you got to take his thoughts seriously, you know. Be serious about that. But
he talks, you listen.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, okay, all right. But no, it was interesting. It was interesting to see that thought.
Yeah, no, 100%. I've said it many times when we're out, playing. I just think Lugia might not be the best deck in format, but I definitely think it's the strongest deck in format. Once you get loaded up and you've got Archeops and you load up, it can hit for anything, and it will hit for anything. So yeah, but yeah, I can't go back to Lugia. It's like a next. So then obviously just kind of breezing over the rest of the top 8. We had 3 versions of Lost Box. We had a new VMAX. We had a Miraidon. I think Miraidon Fluffy, which I really want to play this deck. Have you seen the list though? Have you seen how many options he has? He plays 4 Serena, 2 Bosses, 2 Judge, and 2 Escape Rope. He is definitely making sure he's getting your active out. He's making sure,
it runs very smooth.
It's not really a Miraidon deck, is it? Because Miraidon's just essentially
it's a Gust deck.
Miraidon, the tandem unit is just basically Battle VIP Pass on steroids. You're able to just get anything out. But really, the big damage, obviously, the Raikou with the fleet-footed ability, and the Raichu V, which is something that we tested when we tested, before Scarlet and Violet was even out, before Christmas, we tested, and I think Andy used the Raichu V.
It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Because it removes the need for Regieleki. And removing the need for Regieleki frees up the space for Fluffy. It's perfect.
Exactly, it's just that problem of he didn't play Manaphy and that 90 hitbox Pokemon on the bench against Lost Box, but he did well, got top 7. There's always Miraidon seems to make it.
Because there's always one like you need to hit all your cards, because sometimes it could be a bit inconsistent if you don't hit your your search cards. So you just need someone to have a great run and just go through and have it, and obviously he did.
Well, I remember messaging you, Sean, when you did your Miraidon deck, but you did it with Zeraora, V Max and V Star. Now I actually played against that in real life.
Oh, did you?
It was horrible. It was horrible. It was awful. And I was playing Guardy as well. I think the first game, it was bad. I think the first game, every electric generator, he got a minimum of 1 card. I think he got 1 card once, and the rest of them he got 2. And then he got his V-Star ability, and he literally just took out my entire bench and left me a Cresselia, and I was like,
it's crazy.
I'm scooping.
When it pops, it's insane. It's heavily countered by Manaphy, but if Manaphy's not out, it wins. It's just so strong in that sense.
It really is, It really is. I think the interesting last thing to talk about is in Portland is the lack of Guardies, really. Considering there was over 220 decks, I think only 1 made it in the top 20.
Crazy.
Mewtwo one.
And then there was a Mewtwo one, I think, made it in the top 25 to Grant Shen, but not many at all, really. And obviously, as expected, post EUIC, Tord runs a deck, everyone all of a sudden jumps on deck. It's to be seen, and again from myself playing it, it's a phenomenal deck, but it just comes up short, I feel, and that was obviously shown in Portland. But it'd be definitely interesting to see, the upcoming events, to see, that popularity. Exactly. I wonder if Gira all of a sudden is going to start seeing more rise in popularity. I mean, Arceus saying to Andy, he was running your deck actually, one of your Regidrago decks. recently in the tournament.
Oh, Richard Drake. Oh, the Arc Rated Drago.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that deck. Yeah, it's good fun.
And I just said anything with Arceus because it's just so strong.
Yeah.
You can even lead with Arceus, and it's just so good. But yeah, I wonder if we'll see an upturn in popularity there. But then we also had another regional. So actually on the 6th of May there was 3 regionals and 1 Champions League over in Japan. So the next regional was in Sao Paulo, and that was 765 people. That was won by Felipe Solis, a lost box deck. Kind of, again, nothing really to talk about really on that one. It's just
a
lost box wins another tournament. Surprise, surprise. But the top 8 was 3 lost box, 2 Mews, Arcgira, a Lugia, and a Gardevoir. Gardevoir did make it into top 3, so come on, Gardy. Then moving over to the Singapore regional, Cash Finder. I follow Cash on Twitter, and I know he won it, and I know he won with an Arcgira as well. So but that had 189 players. Again, top 2 was Arcgira, Cash Finder, was Arcgira on top, and then the second was a Gardevoir. Looking at Cash's deck, again, nothing really
Pretty
there.
much the same deck
Pretty much the same. It's just you got a couple. I think there's a Sharon's Care in there, which I always liked in Arceus decks, to be honest. I've always liked that. And then just loads of judges and loads of paths to disrupt everyone. The interesting one I want to talk about is the Singapore Champions League, because the Singapore Champions League had just over 2,700 players. Best of 1 over 2 days, I believe it was.
Oh, the Niigata.
Wow.
That's right, yeah. It was won by a Guardi deck in a mirror match in the final.
Yeah. I actually watched this one. Yeah.
Yeah, a true Guardi player over there.
That sounds wild.
Yeah. Obviously, the Japanese one's quite interesting because they're playing with Snow, Hazard, and Clayburst. So they're basically playing Paldea Evolved. Realistically, the what we experienced really, because we did some testing as well ourselves. Reversal Energy is really good, and that's going to be a big play. Super Rod, again, surprise, that's coming back.
Yes.
And then 4 copies of Iono. So because I think the thing that was the deck that won it. I think the one that we thought would win it was the Drifloon with the Charm of Courage.
Well, that's when we tested
how hard it hits.
So we tested, and we just released a video yesterday or the day before of our tabletop gameplay with Chien-Pao and Gardevoir with a Paldea Evolved. And I played the Gardevoir with Drifloon and Charm of Courage and also Reversal Energies. And Charm of Courage is good with Drifloon and getting the big knockouts. But actually, it was the Reversal Energy that was like the best out of the new cards, had been able to hit 240 with 2 cards without any damage counters. And I think that was, I think Reversal Energy is definitely. In fact, I did watch one of the games. I think someone pointed out on Twitter that there was a Gardevoir mirror and one player passed instead of taking the knockout, so he didn't go behind on prizes, so Reversal Energy didn't work.
Wow, that's how strong it is. How strong it is. Okay. Yeah.
I still think it's a bit risky with the Charm of Courage.
You lost vacuumed me and took it out. Yeah.
But the numbers it can hit for, if you can take a 3 prize of VMAX out, or
It's a last, it's an end of the game move, isn't it? You don't want to be leaving it out with a Charm of Courage at the beginning, because you're asking to get lost vacuum.
100%. It's literally like a last ditch 1-hit KO for game. Very simple one.
But I mean, the second deck, which came second in the Champions League, which was piloted by Yuki Sasagawa, did actually play the Drifloon, but didn't play any Charm of Courage.
Strange.
So they played the Drifloon, they played the kind of standard, again, 4 Iono, played a Zinnia's Resolve, which I quite like as well. Discard energy, get a draw 3, or discard Battle VIP Pass, or, anything really. And then Super Rod, 1 lost vacuum, which kind of saw its way back in, and then, 1 Reversal Energy. So Guardi Guardy gets some help in post-rotation. Well, I say post-rotation. Well, Paldea evolved because I think
Oh.
Iono just will scramble Lost Box players. So
it's on path to being BDIF. I think it's on path to being best deck in format Guardy right now.
It's just the draw.
I didn't
It's
think
phenomenal.
it'd be as good as it is so soon.
Mm-hmm.
Like when it came out, I think I said it's not going to be good until 1 or 2 sets down.
Yeah. People have to figure out how to play it optimally, figure out what's the best list to go with. Because you can see it evolving now. Like originally it was Mewtwo v Union, which has seen some spots, but then obviously Tord comes up and goes, nope, Zacian, Sealstone, it's how you do it, and then it will evolve. It will evolve. There's discussion, so people will try the Driftlooms and stuff like that in actual practical competitions, and then figure out if it's actually good or not, and it'll just evolve over time. So I think it's on its course to being the best deck in format for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What would you say is it's going to be up there with Guardy after next set?
After next set, I don't think I don't know these names, man. Chien-Pao?
Chien-Pao, yeah.
Chien-Pao.
The snow leopard.
I don't think it's going to be as good as people are thinking. I don't think it's even Japan is even showing. I know we've said that before. Japan doesn't really, compare, but it's not looking as good. It's just a big 1-hit KO Donny. I don't know if it will do so well. The interesting one, what's the fighting one called? Tinglu. That one, that's interesting. I like how it shows off the abilities and stuff. I don't think it will go up there, but I think that's got some potential. What else? I still think, me too. I still think Arctina is going to be up there. I think that's just proven itself now. Right, this is one of the top Donnies. Obviously, Lugia's still going to be hanging around. Mew's still going to be hanging around. So I think it's pretty much going to be quite a similar format. Yeah, of course, Lost Boxes. So it'll be quite a similar format, but I just think you might have a couple more slot in here or there. I think sadly for Miraidon, I think Miraidon might get pushed out a little bit. But other than that, I think it would just be pretty much the same, just with a few more additions. Could be completely wrong though. I'm a rogue Donny. I don't know this stuff. But that's what I think.
A random question, just looking far into the future, into Pokemon 151, I was thinking about the Alakazam with the one that you can hit from the bench. I was thinking, that would be good in Gardevoir, but then I thought, is there space for another stage 2 in Gardevoir? I don't know. Like, you just have to skip out the Kadabra and just rare candy it, I suppose.
I forgot it was a stage 2. I kept thinking it was a basic, because I'm thinking of Alakazam.
No. Yeah, you think of like V's, I suppose, as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't think there'd be room for that. No. No. Too much.
It's a shame, because it'd be good.
Well, you never know. You could be cheeky. You got rare candies in there. Just throw, if you can somehow free up 2 deck slots in a Guardy deck, if you find a way. It can.
I'm just thinking when I played against Xander's control deck, when we played at Fanboy, and I was stuck with the Greninja in the active, and he was mawailing me. I thought, if I had Alakazam, it would be fine.
Yeah.
No, brilliant. No, fantastic. Well, yeah, that's kind of wraps it up for the news. For the tournament results. Obviously, like I said, we've got another regional coming out this weekend. So again, looking forward to it, and plenty more coming out. So it's going to be interesting to see the twists and turns really of the competitive format. So I thought, given the fact that we have someone who plays on the client, the Pokemon trading card game live client on a daily basis, uses it obviously for your content, etc., and given the fact that you've obviously been on TCGO as well for quite some time, and given the fact that we obviously had the news which we reported back a couple of episodes ago, that it's PTCGO is now being sunset on June the 5th. We just thought we'd take the time, obviously, given, like I said beforehand, I don't really play live. I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy it. I thought the moment it'd be on the phone, I'd be like all over it, but it's so hot on the phone, the battery gets zapped, and it's just not an enjoyable experience. And then there's the bugs. But then obviously, like I said, we have some other players. Al plays it quite a lot. We just thought we'd get your thoughts and opinions and discuss really the sunsetting and what needs to be done, what needs to any more work, because officially June the 5th it's out of beta, so it's a fully fledged product. So how was your experience been from migrating over to obviously releasing content? And obviously we see you on Twitch, you stream a lot on Twitch with it, and it just must be yeah, how has it been first and foremost, the kind of the migration and getting on to the actual platform?
It's it's not desired. You know what I mean? It's got for me. It's like you have to adapt, right? So for me, it was a bit of it was sad, I guess, to say to leave PTCGO, you know, and go to something that is evidently worse, right? In many ways. But I always have a stroke of optimism in the things that I do. So then I was like, okay, first, if you have to accept it, you can't prevent it. You can't sit there and go, you know, no matter how many videos I make about PTCG out, they're not going to sit there and go, right, sorry, let's cut it off. That they've put too much time, too much money into it. They're not just going to stop. So it's like, okay, you just got to ride the wave, go with it, and try and look at the bright side as much as you can. And there are some bright sides. Obviously, there's the crafting system, which makes my job so much easier as well. Yeah. You know, I don't have to do no more. Like as soon as a promo comes out, like I recently released the Lucario, that would have been so hard to get a hold of when that was first released. You know, and I had to sit there and go buy some packs and trade ridiculous 60 packs for one of these Lucario. You know, that's what it was like on PTCGO, especially for content creation. So it's helped the content creation in some ways. In other ways, it hasn't. You know, I don't like the deck list thing, how you can't just get it all on one big screen. It's the most obvious thing ever, and they don't do it. It makes no. I know. It's like the list of the cards is the larger bit. It's like, no, let me see the deck, and I'll have a little scroll through the little bit. It's fine. You know, I've got some eyes, I can see. Yeah, I don't like that because it makes I have to kind of like make new scenes and stuff like that in OBS to sort that all out. But it's all just adapt. And for me, it's always finding the most optimal way to make something enjoyable and to make something that is efficient to do at the same time. But I could go for hours, by the way, so I'll try and keep it slim. But overall, it's just unfortunate, but you have to accept it. You know, there's so much that PTCGO had that PTCGO doesn't, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah. It is a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because I migrate. I think I was the first out of us to migrate, and that's because I started so late in my like TCG journey. I started in Astral Radiance. I didn't really have anything when I got to online except for the League Battle deck that you got me, Andy. And I wanted to play Power Key, and I wanted to then like I migrated when Regidrago V came out, and I wanted to play Arc Regidrago, but I didn't have any Arceus, so I was like, okay, how do I get Arceus in TCG Live? I was like, okay, I need to trade 16,000 packs of them, or pay £20 for like, or I think it was £20 for the Vs, and then £20 for the like online, and I was like, no, I'm not doing. I'm just gonna migrate, and I'm just gonna play on live, and yeah, that was amazing. I was like, now I could actually test. I tested Drago because I didn't have any credits, and I tested Drago V because you can test without owning the cards, which is good. And then the bugs came, and then it's forever bugged. yeah.
It's just a beta game.
Just a beta.
No, that nonsense. Oh my god. It's just a beta. No, listen, that's what I'm saying. The sun's setting. It's good. I'm sorry. That's not an argument anymore. From June, was it June 6th? You can no longer say it's just a beta. Every time someone mentioned that to me, it was like, the problems are so deeply rooted within the coding of the game, right? So if they introduce a visual change, it affects the gameplay. That's how deep the issue is, right? You're going, these are two completely separate parts of the game, but they all go to the fundamental foundation of the code, right? Where the game is kind of fundamentally built. If changing one thing affects the whole thing down here, it's going to affect other things up there. So it's so deeply rooted. And that's why you usually see quick fixes coming out, because you have to go so far back to do that. So yeah, it just being a beta, it could take years to kind of fix that kind of problem in development. So yeah, that argument is nonsense, and it's proving now, you know, that you can no longer say it's just a beta, because it is technically out of beta, and there's still so many problems.
No, 100%. But at least you can say that after the beta finishes, you can show off to everyone with your special sleeves and deck card that you're going to get.
I actually like
when
we got those.
But yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's not just little minute details, is it, or little issues? It's deep rooted into the coding of the actual game. Yeah, and that's a bit worrying for something that's been in development for so long. I mean, when we first started So like I said, so myself and Andy started playing about Brilliant Stars time. So February 22, is that 22, is it? So February 22. But we actually started collecting when Celebrations came out. The nostalgia hit us, man. So the nostalgia.
Yeah.
So then Fusion Strike came out, you know, Andy's favorite Pokemon's Gengar, I Love Mew. We were like, oh, this is perfect. And, you know, that's when they started advertising live. They started advertising November 21.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's really worrying, but that probably comes into my next question. Pokemon, we've talked about this before on the podcast. Pokemon as a franchise is phenomenal. Like in terms of the amount of revenue they get, how big they are, you know, how can they get something so wrong? When you look at some of the other clients, like for example, Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh Online has a good one on the Switch, which was free. Has it on the PlayStation as well. Magic the Gathering has a really, really, really good one, and that's free as well.
Mm-hmm.
How can Pokemon get it so wrong? Because again, like you, we follow LDF. We watched his video when he used to give insights to what they've changed, and all it did, and it felt like for a lot of time, was people complained about the animations being so slow, so they just put it double speed. That's not fixing the issue. I think you put a video out as well, actually, on that.
I was like, come on, mate.
I remember watching it. We were at Andy's. We did some testing, and we watched it, and we were like, that's not fixing the issue. That's just speeding. But it's just all over the place as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's probably because they've not taken into account people who play the game. They've not like gone to the community and said, before they started building it, and said, how do you want it to look? How do you want it?
I see what you mean. I see what you mean. It reminds me of completely something different, but I've been playing it recently. I'm sure you all know RuneScape, right? It was big in the UK at one point, right?
Yeah.
They introduced a client, like an old school version. That was all based off the community. Like they would introduce votes, let the community decide how things are changed, how things are done. And it's, you know, worked out incredibly for them. It would have been nice to see that, I think, communication. Especially, they clearly needed that. They needed to hear from the community because clearly the developers weren't, it's hard to say because I always say to my videos, I don't know if it's the developers, if it's the people above them, or, you know, there's clearly something wrong in that structure. But whoever is calling these shots clearly is out of touch, right? That's the truth.
There's got to be someone at Pokemon who's signing it off.
Yeah, exactly. Whoever's calling the shots is just naturally out of touch. But to kind of go on to what you're saying earlier, Jamie, about how these other companies can do it better. I think one thing to point out, as much as I criticize, you have to also be fair, right? You have to sit there and understand the big picture, not just pick a side and go, that's it. To play the devil's advocate, it can be said as well that with, like, you know, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff like that, that is their whole franchise, right? Their whole company is that game. Right. Yeah. Whereas with Pokemon, you've got, you know, the VGC, you've got the Pokemon Go, you know, you've got Unite now, and then you have the Pokemon TCG being the smallest of the lot. Right. There's so many other factors that play a role. Now, that's not to excuse it, but they are only going to put a certain amount of their resources into it compared to these other companies where that is their whole product. Right. Like having a good client would sell their cards, which is the only part of the company effectively. I guess you could have merch and stuff like that, but whereas Pokemon is completely different. It's broken into so many parts because it's so big. But that doesn't excuse much, because even their biggest part of the biggest part of the company, the reason why it's so big, the actual video game, even launched broken. Right. So it's ultimately shortcutting. It's time frames. They have very tight time constraints, and I think that's what PTCG Hour's been. Is like, you have a set amount of time to do it. They've hired people who are incapable of doing that in the amount of time, and that's what's happened.
Well, that's what I was actually going to mention. Obviously, when you said someone signed it off, someone signed it off. Someone also signed off Scarlet and Violet. Looking how rough it was, and how, you know. And the thing is, you know, I will put my hands up and I say I pre-ordered it. I played it. I put hundreds of hours into it. We enjoyed it. You know, we do enjoy it. But it's, when you compare it, it's not a bad game, but it's just rough. And we have again spoken before about, they do that 3-year cycle with the video games, and obviously DLC now is included in that, you know. So we're getting DLC end of this year and then early next year. But then realistically, it'll be November 25, really, won't it? So we'll be expecting a new game in 25. You know,
That's it. Is we're expecting a new game in 25, and
would anyone,
regardless of whether they have enough time to make it, is we're expecting it then, and I guess
if
the
they came out and said it's being delayed, I think as a fan base, people would be fine because look how rough Scarlet and Violet was.
I know, but the next game worries me because they're developing a new game, a new IP completely at the minute. It's like a samurai themed game.
Oh, Game Freak.
Yeah.
But they've done that before. I don't think they would jeopardize Pokemon for that.
No, that's their whole brand, isn't it? It's a massive part of their studio. I get it. I mean, yeah, I do see what you mean. And that was the weird thing about PTCG out, right? There's no, well, I'm saying this without knowledge of the inside, but it seems there was minimal consequence to delaying it to whatever time was needed or necessary. You know, people were satisfied with PTCGO. You know, there's no money being made from the product. They don't have, microtransactions, stuff like that, even though it was found in the code apparently that they were planning for that. There's no way for them to actually generate revenue from it, right? Apart from, I guess, encouraging the sale of packs, right?
Yeah.
With minimal losses there, I don't know why they could have just went, okay, clearly it's not good enough. You know, we'll still keep it going. And they should have kept this train going, I think, this train of like PTCGO and PTCGL coexisting. And then just went, all right, when the community is satisfied with PTCGL, we release it, you know, and then go from there. They've just rushed it too much, and there was no reason to not delay it, because just like with the video game, people would be understanding. In fact, our community would be very understanding. You know, when people are out here preferring to test on limitless tabletop over PTCGL, there's a problem, right?
Yeah. No, definitely. It's bizarre.
Has it gone in-house now, though, the development?
Yes. Yeah. I think that was the reason why. I think they didn't want, is it Direwolf, I believe, was developers. Yeah, they didn't want Direwolf developing PTCGO anymore, probably because of costs. I'm just like, right, we'll do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And took on a bigger task than I think they knew.
Yeah.
Like you said, the main point there that I took away there is community. And there's just nothing to the community at all. You know, there's no conversation. I mean, we've like I said, we've played many video games. A video game that we all played years ago was Destiny, if you know that game. And Bungie, who obviously did Halo back in the day, they were notorious for getting the people who actually play the games, the content creators, the streamers. They used to get them to a community summit to show the next content and get their feedback and then base it around the feedback. There's been nothing of that from Pokemon.
Yeah,
you know, there's just been nothing.
Definitely a reason, and not one that I agree with, but a reason. It's to protect their brand. Pokemon do it across the whole company. It's not just for TCG. You know, they don't talk at all about the games either. They just release updates and release announcements. That's all they do. You know, they're not one to communicate with the community just for the sake of brand protection. They heavily value brand protection over these small issues that you know that the community might raise up. So.
Like for example, when there's a bad judge call or something like that. Nothing. Like, they don't come out and say anything.
Exactly. It's brand protection.
Because it's admitting fault, isn't it?
But you say that. So is Nintendo. Nintendo's notorious for that. You know, Nintendo. It's taken we're 2023 now, and it's been the first Mario movie since the 80s. Considering how big Mario is, Nintendo's is notorious for that as well. How did Nintendo? I mean, we're kind of recording Tears of the Kingdom. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has just come out. I'm a massive Zelda fan. I think we're all massive Zelda fans here. That is phenomenal. And the way even people now are saying how does that run on a Switch? You know, it's a 6-year-old machine.
On a cartridge.
Exactly. It's a 6-year-old machine.
It barely runs on mine. My Switch gets very hot.
Oh no.
So you got to dock it. That's the thing. I mean, it's a 6-year-old machine on 10-year-old tech on a 16 gig chip, and it's huge. And people saying it's phenomenal. But then look at how did Nintendo allow Game Freak to release Pokemon to the way it was?
Time. It's just time and money. It is the
reality. I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo got involved at one point.
Yeah, they're business. It's that. That's you got to bring it down to that. At the end of the day, is as corporate as it sounds and as dull and almost soul. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Ultimately, it's the truth, right? It's the fact that it's just time, money, and if it fits within that, it's good to go, right? And they'll figure it out as they go along, which clearly has been the case here. it always just confused me though, because they're not making any money from it. But
Yeah.
ultimately, the higher ups are like, right, this time do this now. They're told by their boss. They're told by their boss to say that. They're told by their, but it just goes so far. It's like, okay, yeah, that's just the reality.
It's the product and the customers it's like movies with like there's a lot of CGI that looks like really really naff, and it's not the artist's fault. It's just that they've got a day to do. Yeah, like
that's the reality of it.
Henry Cavill's mustache.
Yeah, Cavill's mustache.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, we're all massive Pokemon fans, and we're gonna buy it, aren't we?
Yeah,
we're gonna buy it. We're gonna buy the
they're
game.
still getting all our money.
Yeah, they're still getting all our money.
The game, I think the figures,
we are part of the problem. Let's finish.
Yeah, I think the figures released recently, Scarlet and Violet, I think sold about 22 million copies, which is the second highest grossing Pokemon game behind Sword and Shield now, which is just short of 25. So despite the issues, it's still selling.
Do you know what it is? They effectively have some form of a monopoly. There's really rarely any alternatives. That's the thing, right? It's like they know when they release the game, regardless of its state, it sells, right? It sells regardless, right? Pokemon TCG related to that way. It's the only way to technically play the TCG in a way that is enjoyable. Yeah. Right. Otherwise you have like Tabletop Simulator and stuff like that, which is Stone Age. So they know they have that monopoly there. So if you're interested in a TCG, either you play IRL and you don't play it, or you do, right? Yeah. And it's as simple as that. And they don't mind either way, because if you play IRL, you're still buying packs. At the end, it doesn't matter. So that's what I think it is. They have effect. If there was somehow some sort, it's impossible because of rights issues, but if there's somehow some sort of rival client that was like, we do it better, and people start going, then they would care. Yeah. But there's no.
It's very true. It's very true. When
I look at Yu-Gi-Oh, no one's going to Yu-Gi-Oh.
You need competition.
Way too much for my head.
No.
I remember we were testing for Liverpool. Do you remember? And someone was playing Yu-Gi-Oh upstairs at Geek Retreat.
Oh God!
And then one of them came down. And he was like, "Can you check the camera?
The CCTV camera.
Yeah.
I want to
replay. He did that, this and that."
Oh no!
Whereas there's more of a camaraderie in Pokemon.
yeah, definitely.
Unfortunately, we're not here to slander Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's we know a lot of people have come from that, and it's quite toxic. But obviously, again, that does really well as well. So, but like I was going to say, I think from my side, when I get the feeling to play a Pokemon type of game, I just can't play Pokemon. I just play one of the older ones or something. And again, Pokemon love money. I don't understand how they've not released all the backdated games on the Switch and just charged for them to make fortune. But hey ho, they've got to milk us some other way. Okay, well, I think we're kind of coming towards the end of the episode. I don't want to keep Sean here for too long, especially on that Sunday evening. So we obviously talked about the RTFC, and I think we've kind of, unless Sean has one already prepped, I think we've already pretty much covered RTFC in Andy's Lugia penny escapades.
I was going to add Squivet, because when you mentioned Squivet, because there's many. I think earlier on I played Squivet and I was like, I've got no cards in hand, and I was like, why can't I do anything?
Oh yeah.
I've had the issue with Marnie before as well. I know it's not in the format. I've had it with Marnie. Whereas I think Marnie's the only card in hand, and my opponent has a 0 card hand. I couldn't play Marnie. I was like, what the hell is going on? I even put a post on Twitter. I was like, hey, is this bugged? What's going on? Yo, Marnie's bugged? And I was like, no, you just read the card. I'm like, oh yeah. So I'll throw that one in there as well.
Surprisingly, we've had to say read the flipping card a few times to each other, quite a few times to each other over the past 18 months. And but yeah. No, brilliant. Okay, Sean, well, I think that wraps it up for this week. Thank you again very much for joining us. So if everyone wants to get in contact and watch you, etc., what's all the best way to get in contact with you and watch all your content? Yeah, I'll just say the YouTube channel, ForTheWinTCG. It's as simple as that. And that's how you find me. Bloody fly. Yeah.
That's not part of the YouTube channel.
That's not, no.
No.
Brilliant. Well, again, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. So if you guys want to listen to us, watch us on a weekly basis, best place to catch us is on our YouTube. So it's at TrainingCourtTCG. If you want to get in touch with us, we have a Twitter account, which is at Training Court, or an Instagram account, which is at TrainingCourtTCG. If you want to listen to us on your phone, the best place to get us is TheTrainingCourt.podbean.com, which also feeds into Spotify, which is again the Training Court, and then also Apple iTunes podcasts, again just the Training Court. I want to thank you all again for joining me. Sean, again, been a pleasure as usual, and we'll catch you all next week. Take care.